Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking into, well, an absolutely epic story from our sources. The Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean.
Right, and it's way more than just an ancient myth. It's packed with lessons, about conflict, cooperation, sacrifice, big themes.
Absolutely. So our goal today, our mission, is really to pull out the key events, the core lessons, especially around that quest for Amrit, the nectar of immortality.
Exactly. We want to understand the how and the why and what it all ultimately meant.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The sources tell us this is a time of, well, constant war between the Devas, the gods, and the Asuras, the demons.
And crucially, the Devas were actually losing. They were getting weaker, being defeated. It was becoming a serious problem for them.
A real existential threat, it sounds like.
Pretty much. Brute force wasn't cutting it anymore. So they sought advice from Lord Vishnu.
And his solution was unexpected, to say the least.
Totally radical. He basically said, stop fighting, start working together, specifically churn the entire ocean to get this Amrit, this nectar.
But wait, to do that, they needed the Asuras, their biggest enemies.
That's the kicker, yes. Vishnu's plan hinged on the cooperation of both sides. The Devas and the Asuras had to work together on this massive project.
Wow, okay, that's quite the setup. Enemies forced into partnership for the ultimate prize.
It tells you something about the scale of the goal, right? Some things require power that goes beyond traditional alliances or conflicts. They agreed, amazingly. Share the spoils, share the Amrit.
So, let's talk logistics. Churning an ocean. You can't just use a big spoon. What did they actually use?
No, the scale here is just cosmic. Our sources say the churning rod was Mount Mandara, Mandarashal Parvat, a huge mountain.
The whole mountain, okay. And the rope?
For the rope, they got Vasuki Naga, the great cosmic serpent. You know, the one often seen around Lord Shiva's neck.
Right, Shiva's serpent. So a mountain and a giant snake.
Yeah.
That's quite the equipment list. How did they decide who pulled which end of the snake?
Well, that division happened quickly. The Asuras, being prideful, maybe a bit arrogant, demanded the head end of Vasuki.
They wanted the front, the position of seeming control.
Exactly. Which left the Devas to take the tail end? Perhaps a bit more humbly, or maybe strategically.
Because the head end of a giant stressed snake, that's where the nasty stuff comes from, right? The fumes, the venom.
Precisely. It was a choice that, had consequences down the line. So they grab their ends, they start pulling.
And it works?
Not quite. Almost immediately they hit a snag, a big one. Mount Mandara, their giant churning rod started sinking, just sliding down into the ocean floor.
Oh, so engineering failure right out of the gate. All that effort and the main tool just sinks.
Yeah, they had the power, the agreement, but no stability, no foundation. Everything was about to collapse before it even really began. That's the aspect of Vishnu. Not commanding, but supporting. He took his Kurma avatar form.
The giant tortoise.
The giant tortoise, exactly. He dove right down to the bottom of the ocean, positioned himself underneath a sinking mountain, and just held it up. Provided that solid base on his shell.
So the lesson there is, you need that unseen, maybe unglamorous foundation before you can actually do the big chaotic work.
That's a great way to put it. Stability first. Without Kurma, the whole churning, the Manthan would have failed right there.
Okay, so the mountain is stable now, thanks to the tortoise. They start churning again. What happens next? Surely now the good stuff starts appearing.
Well, not exactly. The first thing that emerged from the churning ocean was terrifying.
Not Amrit then.
Definitely not Amrit. It was Halahal, a deadly poison.
Halahal. The sources describe it as world-ending.
Pretty much. Boiling up from the depths, potent enough to destroy everything. Gods, demons, the whole creation. Total annihilation in liquid form.
So, after all that effort, all that unprecedented cooperation, the first result is cosmic death. That's grim.
It was panic stations. Both the Devas and the Asuras, completely terrified, dropped everything and ran to the one being that they thought could handle something this catastrophic.
Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva. They pleaded with him to intervene, to save them all from this Alahala.
And this is where we get a truly defining moment for Shiva, isn't it?
Absolutely. A moment of incredible sacrifice. Seeing the danger, Shiva chose to act. He decided to drink the Halahal himself.
Drink the poison to save everyone else.
Yes, knowing the immense risk. But there's a key detail here involving Goddess Parvati, his consort.
She stopped it from going all the way down.
That's right. She used her power to halt the poison in his throat. It couldn't kill him, but it couldn't escape either.
And the consequence?
The poison was so potent it permanently stained his throat blue. That's why he's known as Neelakampa.
The blue-throated one. Wow. Okay, so think about this flow. First the cooperation, then the immediate disaster, then the ultimate sacrifice to contain the disaster.
And only then do the rewards start to appear. It's like the myth is saying you have to deal with the potential fallout, the poison of any great endeavor before you can claim the prize.
Sacrifice, or tiag, as the sources call it, comes before the Amrit. That's a powerful lesson right there.
It really is. And once Shiva contained the Halahal, things finally started looking up. The treasures began to emerge.
The Ratnas, the divine gems and beings.
Yeah.
What came out?
A whole procession. There was Kamadhanu, the wish-granting cow. Airavata, Indra's amazing white elephant.
Ukajrava, the divine horse too. Right?
Yes, the swift white horse. And Kalpavriksha, the wish-fulfilling tree, really foundational elements of the cosmos.
And perhaps most significantly, Goddess Lakshmi emerged, the goddess of wealth and prosperity.
Indeed. And she chose Lord Vishnu as her eternal consort right then and there. A major alignment of divine power.
So incredible treasures, divine beings, but still not the main goal.
Still building anticipation, all incredibly valuable, but everyone, Devas and Asuras alike, were reading for one thing.
The
Amrit. And finally, the Navantari, the divine physician, emerged from the ocean, and in his hands,
he had it. The pot. The kalash.
he had the kalash, filled with the nectar of immortality, Amrit. The ultimate prize was finally there.
I can only imagine the tension. All that work, all that sacrifice, finally paid off. But that fragile truce between the Devas and Asuras, did it hold?
Not for a second. The moment the Amrit appeared, the sources say the Asuras just grabbed it, snatched the pot through cunning and force.
So much for cooperation. The gods must have been devastated.
Completely disheartened, betrayed, defeated after everything. It looked like the Asuras had won after all.
This feels like another moment for intervention. Vishnu again.
Vishnu again, but this time a totally different approach was needed. Not stability like Karma, not just counsel. This time, it was about strategy, maybe even deception.
Also, what did he do?
He transformed, took on the Mohini avatar.
Mohini, described as an incredibly beautiful woman.
Anupam Rupavati Street, unbelievably enchanting. Mohini used her charm, her beauty, her voice. She basically captivated the Asuras.
Okay, and then what? Just charm them into giving the pot back.
Pretty much. She convinced them that things were getting heated, chaotic, and that she should be the one to distribute the Amrit fairly, to keep the peace between them.
Fairly. I have a feeling her idea of fair was a bit skewed.
You could say that?
Yeah.
She charmed them, took the pot, and then proceeded to distribute the Amrit only to the Devas. Line by line, giving each god a drink.
Whoa. Okay, so Vishnu, who initially mandated cooperation, now uses deception to ensure the right side gets the prize. That's complex.
It is complex. It suggests that when faced with Dharma, unrighteousness like the Asura snatching the pot, sometimes wisdom, vivek, and cleverness, chaturai, are necessary tools.
Yeah. The original rule didn't hold anymore.
But did all the Asuras fall for it?
Almost all. But one Asura, named Svarbhanu, was sharp. He saw through the deception.
What did he do?
He quickly disguised himself as a Deva, slipped into the line of gods, and managed to actually get some Amrit. He started drinking.
No. So close to the end, and an Asura gets immortality. He was literally moments away from becoming invincible, which would have tipped the balance forever. But he was spotted.
By whom?
By Surya, the sun god, and Chandra, the moon god. They saw him and immediately alerted Vishnu.
Vishnu.
Acted instantly. He knew the Amrit had already passed Svarpanu's throat, so full immortality for the whole being was already happening. But he whipped out his Sudarshan chakra.
The discus.
Yes, and severed Svarpanu's head from his body.
Ouch. But wait, if the Amrit was already past his throat.
Exactly. The head, having tasted the Amrit, became immortal. That head is known as Rahu. And the body, also touched by Amrit's power before separation, also became immortal. That's Ketu.
Rahu and Ketu, the severed head and body. And they're immortal. This sounds like it leads somewhere significant.
Well, it absolutely does. This single act explains a major cosmic phenomenon according to ancient beliefs.
It is.
Eclipses. Quran. The story goes that Rahu, the head, forever resents Surya and Chandra for ratting him out.
So he chases them.
He constantly tries to swallow the sun and the moon in revenge. When he partially or fully succeeds, that's an eclipse. Ketu, the body, is also involved in creating eclipses sometimes, depending on the tradition.
Wow. So a divine drama, a betrayal, a beheading, directly leads to an explanation for why the sun and moon sometimes disappear. That's an incredible connection.
It really ties mythology directly to observable astronomy. It makes the cosmos deeply personal and consequential.
Okay, so Rahu and Ketu are created. What happens with the main conflict?
With the Amrit secured now only for the Devas, their power was fully restored, amplified even. They were finally strong enough to decisively defeat the remaining Asuras.
And balance was restored.
Balance was restored to the creation. The cosmic order was reestablished thanks to this incredibly long, complex, and frankly messy process.
It really is an overwhelming story. Cooperation, sinking mountains, poison, sacrifice, divine beauties, immortal heads causing eclipses.
Wow.
It covers so much ground.
It does, and that's why pulling out the core takeaways, the lessons for us as learners today, is so important after going through all that detail.
Right. Let's synthesize. What are the big lessons from the sources here?
Okay, first, lesson 1. The churning itself. The Manthan. It screams that real achievement, the Amrit, requires intense struggle. You have to engage with the churning, the chaos. No shortcuts to real transformation.
Makes sense. Effort equals reward. What's next?
Lesson 2. Shiva drinking the Halahal. This highlights Tyag, sacrifice, and Baladayan, selflessness. True leadership, or even just responsibility, means facing the negative consequences, the poison that comes with big actions, often for the greater good.
So it's not just about winning, it's about being willing to absorb the cost. Got it. Lesson 3.
Lesson 3 comes from Mohini. Vishnu's deceptive avatar shows that sometimes brute force or even initial ideals aren't enough. Wisdom, prudence, cleverness, Vivek, and Chaturai become essential tools, especially when dealing with unrighteousness or betrayal.
That adaptability, that strategic thinking is key, even if it feels ethically complicated.
Exactly, the context mattered. And finally, lesson 4, Rahu and Ketu. This is about the eventual end of adharma or unrighteousness. Svarbhanu got immortality, yes, but in a broken, eternally vengeful form. There are always consequences, often cosmic and long-lasting, for actions driven by greed or deception.
That eclipse connection really drives home the consequence part. It's literally written in the stars.
Precisely.
So to recap this deep dive, we've seen forced cooperation turn into chaos, sacrifice paving the way for reward, the need for a solid foundation, cleverness trumping brute force, and cosmic consequences for betrayal. It's a universe of lessons in one story.
It really is, and that brings us to a final thought, something for you, the listener, to really chew on based on everything we've discussed from the sources today.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the greatest treasure, Amrit, this nectar of immortality, could only be accessed by this initial, almost unthinkable alliance between the ultimate forces of good, the Devas, and evil, the Asuras, what does that tell us about tackling the massive, complex problems we face today? Does achieving truly essential goals sometimes require us to form uncomfortable alliances and indeed temporary partnerships with those who fundamentally oppose, if the survival or betterment of the world is truly at stake?